Coach Ramsey, thank you for taking the time to sit with me this evening and share your insights on your coaching career. Most importantly, these past 13 years as a defensive coordinator for the Guyer Wildcats.
Well, thank you.
So take us back to the beginning, right? I know your dad was a longtime West Texas football coach, and you played at Tech. Is this how you got involved in coaching, or did something else lead you to this most noble of professions?
No, that was really it. I grew up in a coaching environment, coaching family, and I was one of those just gym rats, as you'd say, that just hung out the field house, and it's all I ever thought about doing or being, and it just went from there, and moved on into coaching after college.
Siblings?
I have two. I have two brothers, George and Kelly.
So that was probably a scary house growing up, because I grew up in a house of three boys too.
It was hard keeping us in line.
Just beaten.
Yeah, you had to. If you didn't get beat, we weren't going to be in line.
Love that. How many gallons of milk a week?
We went through over a gallon a day.
Yeah.
It was, that was a big deal. My parents still complain about that.
Same with that and loaf of bread.
Yes.
Crazy.
The cereal and the ice cream. We had a little blue barn about 3 blocks from us, and we could go up there and charge food. Mom and Dad would let us eat all we could eat. Just go get your groceries if we ran out, and we'd run up quite a bill.
Yeah, West Texas and Georgia ain't too far different, is it? No. Listen, before we get too deep into a bunch of football talk, some of our listeners may or may not know that your wife Heather battled and beat cancer last year. It's a great story. It's a bigger battle than you've probably ever faced on the field. First of all, briefly, how's she doing? And then tell us about Derek Ramsey as a dad, a husband, as a family guy.
Well, she's doing great. She's in complete remission on the cancer, and I would just like to take this time to say thank you to the Guyer football family and their support that they gave out. It was just unbelievable. From whatever help you needed or wanted, and Coach Walsh and his family and Amber, they set up food for us, and they set up just everything you could do, and it was so supportive of the Guyer football family. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's glad to hear that. We always think about football, and we all love football, but Guyer is just that. It is a family. It's more than that. So being a dad, being a family guy, you said you had two brothers. Family big in the Ramsey hierarchy. All up, still close to your brothers and family.
We've all ended up living in the Metroplex area now, and they're at the games all the time. And I have to get about 12 tickets together, and we have to take the post game picture. That wears Cole out.
I bet.
You know how that is. And no, it's all about family, and it's we have a good time getting together, and it's in football season makes it even better because we see each other every week now.
Yeah.
And it's a good time.
So they're not in the coaching profession.
No.
But they still love football. You can't grow up in that family without loving it.
Both of them were college football players. No, they love it. They love being around it. It was just part of us when we were growing up.
That's awesome. So walk me through your coaching stops, and let's talk about how you ended up here at Guyer, teamed up with Coach Walsh. So start me off in the beginning of coaching.
Well, I started out in Odessa. I was going to Texas Tech, and my dad came by, and I think it was about year 6 at Tech. And I was trying to find grad classes to take.
I majored in Kappa Sig for about 4 years at Georgia. So.
Yeah, so he said, I'm cutting you off, son. There's this job in Odessa. He was a head coach at the time. And he said, I got this good job for you, lined up in Odessa. I think you should go take it. And you graduated a year ago, and you're still taking classes. So I figured, okay, well, it's time to go, start a profession. I ended up out there, and I tell you, that was one of the greatest things to happen to me. We had a head coach come over from Odessa Permian, Randy Quisenberry, and they had such a structured program that he brought with him over there. Him and Ron King was the defensive coordinator, and I got to learn football from just the basic techniques and the scheme that was so solid and sound, and that's really where I got my background from. And then I went with them to Abilene Cooper, and I spent a couple years there. And then at that point, I had to follow Heather's career. And I took a brief stop in Marshall out in East Texas, and then we ended up coming here to the Metroplex, and Coach Gary Fisher hired me at Denton High.
Cool.
And I spent 2 years there, and that was a good time, a lot of fun. And he retired, and then that's when I got on with Coach Walsh here at Guyer.
Yeah, Heather's family. She got a big family too. They still here? Or are they all over the country?
They're all over
the place. Another two-part question here, and then we'll get to some more of the coaching aspects. How has Guyer changed? 13 years now, right? You've been here. How has Guyer changed in the last 13 years, and how has the high school game in general changed in that same period?
You know, the biggest change is probably the classification change. It changes the style of football. It changes the intensity of the football. But the school, it's really stayed a lot the same. I mean, Coach Walsh has he put together a pretty standard program, and you'd recognize really a lot of the stuff we did the first year, doing it right now. He's pretty steady on the way he did things, and that's one of the great things about being here. I mean, we all know what's going to happen, where we stand, and it's been a good time. It's been a good 13 years, or is that what?
13, I think I looked at it.
I can't even keep count.
Yeah, I think this is actually the 14th.
Since 05.
Yeah, because you started day one.
Day one. You couldn't ask for a greater experience of 13 years.
That's awesome.
I've loved every minute of it.
Is there a single play or a single moment that sort of etched into your memory more than any other? I know there's probably a bunch, but is there one that sort of pushes its way through?
There's several of them.
Grab two or three of them.
There's the big playoff wins. I'd say, kicking the field, being down 21 out in Lubbock in our first was the regional final, 4th round, and we never led the whole game, and then the field goes through with no time remaining, and getting that win. That's always one of the first biggest wins. The semifinal games, the 2 semifinals were unbelievable. There's a good story that goes along with that. We were down against Highland Park all day, and we kept on telling the defense, "Hey man, hold in there. You know the offense is fixed to take over." And then I guess it was probably fourth quarter just started, and Gerard Hurd walks over to the defense and he goes, "Guys, don't worry, I'm about to take this thing over." And and he did, and then we ended up winning our first title from there.
Yeah,
and then, but there were several moments like that just stand out. The John Tyler game.
What was it like to be on the field? Because we were in the stands, and what was it like to be on the field for that?
You felt you had this one part, and you knew it couldn't be that smooth. I mean, we were going; it was so smooth at first, and then it just broke loose, and it was like you couldn't grab back hold of it.
Right.
And we go down and we score, and I just remember Coach Walsh walking by me, and he goes, "Listen, I'm not going to have time to score again. All right." And you're like, I'm thinking, you're right. We got to come up with something big.
And the big pick.
And then Terrence Belton makes the pick.
And then how ironic is it? A week later in the state championship, same thing. Almost identical type play, right? Little like belly crease across the middle. He steps in front.
Yes, a little shallow dig.
Yeah.
And picks it off, and we're state champions.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've had a privilege of being around this program for almost 10 years now. But neither one of my boys played for you, right? They played on the other side of the ball. You call those the pretty boy positions, right?
No,
Actors.
I call those
probably
guys
worse than that.
No, those are the guys that keep us off the field. They're my biggest. I'm the biggest fan. Of that.
Okay.
I mean, you keep us off the field. That's the best defense.
But you don't want them knowing that, though, right?
No.
But listen, away from the field, I have always found you to be sort of a quiet guy, right? Yeah. Always one of the nicest people, most approachable, but quiet, sort of unassuming guy. Even though it's kind of silly, right? As big as you are, right? And having Cole and Cam being buddies, and Cole being at my house a lot, and I see how big he is, and then still you're still that much bigger than Cole. is sort of funny. But on the field, you know, you're a fierce competitor, and I've seen you. But I've also seen you evolve over the years, right? So Preston, my oldest son, Preston, obviously, you know, used to tell stories of your legendary freaking tirades at practice, right? Coach Ramsey screaming and yelling and chewing and grabbing face masks, and not that ever happened.
No, those are just stories.
Right. But anyway, the last few years, I see that you've sort of mellowed a little bit, letting maybe some of your other coaches take on that mantra. Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen you getting some grills every now and then when you have to. But would you say that's a fair observation?
Yes, I think you do.
And is that just something that comes with time, or
you get older and you learn better techniques, and you know, and how to talk to these kids and how to motivate them, and you know, and then you get to be 50 years old and you can't run around and scream like you could when you were 25.
Got to find different ways to motivate.
Yeah, I get one shot at that and I'm done. I'm worn out.
Also, kids, let's talk about individual kids for just a second, because I've always found just in life, with my children or people that I coach or people that I played or people that I managed, and the people that I played with, you can't treat everyone the same way. You just try to treat everybody fairly, exactly. But you don't treat every player the same, right?
Exactly. No, you've got to treat them all. They're all different, and different kids are motivated in different ways. And yeah, if you try to treat every kid the same, you know, you're not going to be a very good motivator, and you're not going to reach every kid. You got to find out what makes that kid tick, and really concentrate on that, and treat them differently but fairly.
So we've had a bunch of human interest and a bunch of rah-rah, you know, let's talk about your life questions. Let's talk a little X's and O's for a second. Okay. I know you like that. So high school football in Texas has been often referred to as basketball on grass, right?
Yes.
What's the key to dealing with all these spread offenses? I know, you know, you heard me talk about Frisbee catching dogs, and Mark Packer loves to say that to them. I talked in the first week about how's Coach Ramsey going to deal with all these Ferraris that he faces, but literally you do. Every week you face these crazy spread offenses, and Alito was no different. Tell me, yes. You know, how do you even get your head around that?
It's quite the challenge, because what you run into is most teams are going to take their best athlete on the team, and they're going to put them at quarterback, and they're going to teach them how to throw the football, and they're going to teach them how to do this. And you've got to contain that guy. And if you don't contain him and you don't keep him in the pocket and keep him from wearing you out, you don't have a chance. So it's a big challenge with the forcing unit and the D-line. They've had to become way more athletic. And you've really moved linebackers to defensive linemen or defensive ends, DBs to linebackers, and then you're playing with just straight running skill that can run at the, you know, in the secondary. And you've got to be able to play in space. And then you've got to be multiple in coverage, because these offensive coordinators these days, if you try to just be simple, they'll pick you apart, because there's a weakness to everything you do. And so you can't just show them one thing. And then, you know, the tempo is another thing. You have to practice tempo, and that's very challenging too.
Right.
And there's just a lot.
Well, they know where they're going,
yes.
And you don't. And right? It takes a lot more energy to chase than it does to lead, right?
Yes, it's quite the challenge.
So everybody wants to tote the rock, right, and score touchdowns. So how do you convince enough of your great athletes? I have seen you do it through the years. I've seen Guyer take kids that were, you know, scoring touchdowns all over the place in seventh grade, and boy, that's the next so-and-so, whatever. And I've seen you make great linebackers out of them. I've seen you make great safeties out of them. I've seen you, you know, even some that grew, I've seen you make great defensive ends out of them. But what's the magic to that? How do you convince these kids to come play defense?
You know, you just gotta, you're looking for the kids that want to play and want to get on the field and say, I can contribute in any way you want. What do you want me to do, Coach? And that's the kids that we look for. And, you know, it's just, let me out there, Coach. I want to be a Guyer Wildcat. How can I contribute? And those are the kids that will take you and make you a winning program. And, you know, it's just the culture around here. And we have so many like that. But then, you know, I joke with them, and I told you earlier about this. I'll get with the receivers just in a joking manner, and I tell them, I go, listen, you want to carry the ball and touch the ball? I can get the ball